It's September 25th here in Seoul. These are the headlines we're following at this hour. The 19th Asian Games is taking place in Hangzhou, China. South Korea logged its first medal, Kim Sun-woo silver in women's modern pentathlon. With 5 golds in pentathlon, Taekwondo and fencing so far, South Korea currently stands at number 2 in the medal table. South Korean Prime Minister Han Duck-soo met Chinese President Xi Jinping at the Games, where Xi reportedly expressed interest in visiting South Korea. This as South Korea, Japan, and China resumed the groundwork for a trilateral summit today. President Yoon Suk-yeol has returned home from his recent trip to New York, where he sent out a warning against Russia and North Korea's potential arms deal in his UN speech and held dozens of sideline meetings to boost Busan's bid to host the 2030 World Expo. We break down the highlights and significance of key events. Good morning. South Korean Prime Minister Han Duck-soo met Chinese President Xi Jinping at the Asian Games. During the meeting, President Xi reportedly expressed interest in visiting South Korea, perhaps signaling the defrosting of the relations between two neighboring countries. Shin Se-byuk reports.
South Korean Prime Minister Han Duck-soo met with Chinese President Xi Jinping on Saturday. The meeting came as Han visited the eastern Chinese city of Hangzhou for the opening ceremony of the Asian Games. There, the two expressed their mutual commitment to advancing the relationship between the neighboring countries.
We both are currently grappling with North Korean provocations, global economic uncertainties, and supply chain disruptions.
She also said Beijing is willing to work with South Korea to promote strategic bilateral relations to support peace and security in the region.
We are destined to be close neighbors and companions that can't be moved apart.
During a closed meeting between Han and Xi, the Chinese president reportedly expressed his interest in a visit to South Korea. Should it happen, this would be Xi's first visit to South Korea since 2014. South Korea's news agency, citing a government official who spoke on condition of anonymity, reported that Seoul will start discussing Xi's visit with Beijing through diplomatic channels. Seoul's National Security Advisor Cho Tae-yong, in an interview with local media on Sunday, said the presidential office is set to arrange Xi's visit. What was also mentioned was Xi's hope for the resumption of a trilateral summit meeting between South Korea, Japan, and China, which was last held in 2019. If both the trilateral summit and Xi's visit do take place, this could signal some positive developments for the three neighboring countries' strained relations. Meanwhile, starting Monday, South Korea, China, and Japan will hold a high-level meeting in Seoul for 2 days to discuss trilateral cooperation. South Korean Deputy Foreign Minister Chung Byung-won, Japanese Vice Foreign Minister Takehiro Funakoshi, and Chinese Assistant Foreign Minister Nong Rong will attend the talks. This round of talks will include a separate discussion on setting up a trilateral summit between the three leaders. Shin Se-byuk, Arirang News.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said Saturday that he will visit Pyongyang next month as part of follow-up measures to the summit between leaders of North Korea and Russia earlier this month. Speaking during a press conference at the UN headquarters in New York, Russia's top diplomat said that the upcoming visit follows an agreement made between Kim Jong-un and President Vladimir Putin. With Putin having accepted Kim's invitation to visit the reclusive state, watchers say the trip could be discussed during Lavrov's trip. Kim and Putin had a summit at a Russian spaceport on September 13th, raising speculation over North Korea and Russia's military cooperation, which may include an arms deal. Now on to President Yoon Suk-yeol's recent trip to New York. His week-long trip included attending the UN General Assembly and holding talks with dozens of world leaders on the sidelines to promote Busan's bid to host the 2030 World Expo. This was an opportunity to broaden South Korea's diplomatic network and solidify status as a global pivotal state. For more on the trip's highlights and significance, we have our presidential office correspondent, Oh Soo-young, here in the studio. Good morning, Soo-young.
Hi, Kyung-in.
Hi. So let's first get a recap of President Yoon's trip to New York.
Sure. So President Yoon's speech at the UN, let's start with that. That set out South Korea's action plan to contribute to global peace and prosperity by dealing with the biggest challenges facing the world. He identified what he called the three divides, or disparities that we're seeing between the global haves and have-nots. One was the climate response, helping countries without the capacity or technology to make the green transition. And second, narrowing the digital divide, with President Yoon separately at New York University proposing a new digital Bill of Rights that addresses the need for the fair and ethical use of digital technology in order to benefit rather than harm humankind, and is also capable of being developed by a broad range of innovative players instead of enriching and empowering just a select few. To address the wider scope of the global divide, as he put it, the government has increased its budget for official development assistance next year by over 40%, as the president noted in his speech. And as South Korea's masterpiece, if you will, on presenting solutions for the present and the future based on its own past developmental experience, President Yoon again pitched for Busan City's bid to host the 2030 World Expo, meeting with nearly 50 countries during his 5-day stay. Now, these include countries South Korea has never held summits with in the history of its diplomatic relations, including members of the Caribbean community, for instance. So that really opened up new diplomatic and possible trade channels for the country as well.
Right, now on to President Yoon's UN speech will garner particular attention with his direct warning against Russia and North Korea over a potential arms deal. How should we read into this?
Well, that really made clear that President Yoon is firmer than any other South Korean leader previous to him that he will not tolerate third countries that enable North Korea's nuclear missile threat. Now, leading up to the General Assembly, Yoon has urged all countries to properly enforce sanctions against the regime in line with UN resolutions and warned against any military cooperation with Pyongyang without specifically naming a country. But after Kim Jong-un's summit with Vladimir Putin the weekend before the General Assembly, Yoon called out Russia directly, saying that it is, quote, paradoxical to be a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, yet enabling a country sanctioned by the Council's own resolutions. Now, here he added that Moscow has instigated war against Ukraine, which he says is also directly threatened by the Russia-North Korea collaboration.
And this is more concerning, which is that this is more than just a transaction, that this is about Russia and Korea elevating their relationship to one of not a former alliance, but something close to it. It's going to become more like North Korea. And this is very concerning because North Russia would then behave more like a rogue state, such as transgressing and violating international norms, especially norms such as non-proliferation.
So South Korea's message was that it's also standing up against threats against peace, not only for its own interest, but for the freedom and security of other democracies in the world, like Ukraine, as a non-permanent member of the Security Council for a 2-year term beginning next year.
Right. In that regard, President Yoon joined other world leaders in calling for a reform of UN Security Council, which is the most powerful body in the UN. Tell us more about that, please.
Right, so Kyung-in, the Security Council uniquely has the power or the authority to produce legally binding resolutions within the United Nations system, which requires all of its permanent 5 or P5 member states, including Russia and China, to reach a consensus. In other words, a P5 member could potentially block any resolution from being passed, and that has been the case in recent years, with Moscow and Beijing ignoring global calls to condemn and further sanction North Korea's provocations, such as its missile and satellite launches. According to a presidential official, the P5's veto rights have led to a gridlock within the council, which has not only directly impacted South Korea's security, but also worsened the effects of the war in Ukraine, sparking food and energy security crises, not to mention crises in global supply chains and financial stability as well. Now, the leaders of the United States, Japan, the EU and Ukraine also endorsed the idea of reforming the Security Council in order to either remove the veto system or expand the permanent membership, as the decades following the creation of the Council in 1945 after the Second World War have seen vast changes, such as the fall of the Berlin Wall, the financial crises of the 2000s, and also the rise of new emerging powers, such as Germany, India, even South Korea and Brazil.
So if United Nations wants to remain relevant in these days and age, and it's very important for United Nations to reflect the reality in the relations and on the ground in the international community. And also institutionally means that new powers are going to have new voices, and I think it's going to send a strong signal to the rest of the world that the powers shouldn't be taken for granted.
So in a way, it strengthens South Korea's case for acting as a global pivotal state.
Right, it reinforces that message President Yoon has consistently given for global solidarity as Seoul looks to engage more deeply beyond the Korean peninsula, not only to procure cooperation on countering North Korea and expanding its trade network, but also to help shape new norms in this ever-changing world so that they align with the liberal democratic world order.
I think for a while, South Korea was just focused on South Korean things. But as a global pivotal state, talking about values and human rights, universal norms, President Yoon has taken on a regional and global role that I can't remember any other South Korean leader doing. And you could see the welcome that he got at the White House, the state dinner, the speech at Congress, the Camp David summit. I think South Korea is front and center in President Biden's Indo-Pacific strategy and a very trusted partner and ally.
Some observers say South Korea is stepping out of the shadows, not only backing Washington's initiatives, but taking leadership in areas of common global concern, becoming a responsible player in the international community.
President Yoon is not a junior partner. And in many ways, the initiative is his to do things that even you and I may not dream of. And this is the key. Whispering in the halls of the General Assembly and the various missions to the UN are the fact that, hey, you know, this South Korean president, you know, look what he's doing and look what he's saying and look all the heads of leaders that he's meeting. So, I mean, and that's what's important. It's not what they say in the open diplomatic fora. It's the buzz. It's the buzz that's going around. So President Yoon is doing the right thing. But with that comes also great responsibility.
Particularly with the United States and China locked in geopolitical rivalry on multiple fronts, from infrastructural projects across the Indo-Pacific and technological competition, South Korea is strengthening multilateralism, calling for values like freedom and a rules-based world order, while also proposing reform in areas where new norms are needed.
All right, Soo-young, thanks for coming in today.
My pleasure.
Sunday marked 1 month since Japan began releasing wastewater from its destroyed Fukushima nuclear power plant, with data showing that the levels of tritium are far lower than the international standard. However, China keeps in place its complete ban of all imports of Japanese seafood. Lee Seung-jae has more.
This past Sunday marked exactly 1 month since Japan began releasing wastewater from its crippled Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant and concluded the first phase of the release on the 11th of this month. The first discharge amounted to a total of 7,800 tons, and the Tokyo Electric Power Company diluted the contaminated water with a large amount of seawater before sending it through an undersea tunnel about 1 kilometer long. To analyze the impact of the discharge on the environment, the Tokyo Electric Power Company, along with Japan's Environment Ministry and other interested agencies, collected seawater and fish from around the nuclear power plant and analyzed each for tritium concentration. Data showed that levels of tritium from the wastewater remain below the standards set by TEPCO. The highest concentration of tritium recorded was 10 becquerels per liter, detected near the discharge port on the 31st of last month. However, this was far below 700 becquerels per liter within 3 kilometers of the nuclear power plant, which TEPCO had set as the standard for discontinuing the discharge. Despite recent data showing the safety of the discharged wastewater, China is continuing to show its opposition. Since the release of the wastewater, China has imposed a complete ban on all Japanese seafood. The ban is a major blow to the Japanese seafood industry, as China is the world's largest importer of Japanese seafood. However, TEPCO will continue on with the release as it plans a second round and a total release of 31,200 tons of wastewater by March next year. This amount is equivalent to approximately 2.3% of the contaminated water stored at the Fukushima nuclear power plant. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Today, traditional Korean houses, Hanok, have evolved beyond being just residential spaces. And there's a special week here in capital Seoul during which you can enjoy the beauty of these houses mingled with the autumn scenery. Our Lee In-hee has a story.
Korea's traditional houses, or Hanok, invite people beyond their walls, revealing their beautiful appearance. Seoul Metropolitan Government is for the first time hosting a 2023 Seoul Hanok Week from September 18th to the 27th in Bukchon, Seochon, and in Pyongyang Village. The Hanok Week will feature exhibitions, performances, and experiential and educational events that would allow visitors to enjoy the capital's Hanok in different ways.
Seoul's Hanok are considered part of the city's identity and valuable assets that have continued to evolve in response to new demands.
This house is called Hwang. Built in traditional way, it has a history of more than 120 years in Bukchon Hanok village. It was designated Seoul Folk Culture Property number 14 in March 1977. Hwang stylistically belongs to the early period following Japanese occupation. It shows how aspects of the Western lifestyle of that time were introduced into a traditional Korean house. Although the underfloor heating, grid-patterned floors, frame, roof, and floral decorations are all of the traditional style. Another Hanok that is open to the public is Yangnyu-dang. This Hanok earned second place in the 2012 National Hanok Competition with its harmonization of traditional values and modern architectural aspects.
These days, when it comes to Hanok, many people tend to think of them as just for Hanok Day. Here, in addition to accommodation, exhibitions are also held. We've designed spaces where you can both appreciate art and take a break while enjoying the space.
Chitta Pavilion, named after the Korean word for to build, is hosting music concerts on the evenings of September 22nd to the 24th. Passing through the bamboo grove at the entrance, visitors will see a round yard with kudur, which are old floor heating stones.
It's so close to the buzzing city, but when you're inside, it feels a lot quieter, peaceful. Really calm, and there's also the smell of the timber.
Yeah, no, but with the plants, it can create a natural shelter.
Director Kim added that the organizers hope Hanok will become cultural content that transcend time, space, and generations, and something that people from all over the world can seek out and enjoy. Lee In-hee, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Matthew Ashley, and now we're turning our attention to the 19th Asian Games in Hangzhou, China. The sports extravaganza kicked off with an opening ceremony on Saturday. Our Song Yoo-jin reports from Hangzhou.
Hangzhou. This city in China's Zhejiang province, known for traditional literature and art, is now the stage for Asia's largest sports event. The 19th Asian Games kicked off with an opening ceremony under the night sky on Saturday.
So the opening ceremony took place here at the Hangzhou Olympic Sports Center Stadium. So you can see the stadium right behind me. It's called the Big Lotus here because the stadium resembles a lotus flower.
The ceremony revolved around the theme Tides Surging in Asia, featuring performances using augmented reality and LED displays. Team Korea entered the stadium 16th among the 45 teams. Reigning Asian Games champions Gu Bon-gil and Kim So-young carried the national flag on behalf of some 870 athletes. Prime Minister Han Duck-soo represented the Korean delegation. North Korea entered the stadium 7th. The highlight of the ceremony, for the first time in Asian Games history, the cauldron was ignited both digitally and physically. A digital torchbearer sprinted on the giant screen toward the cauldron, while Hwang Sun, Tokyo Olympics gold medalist swimmer, carried the real torch. Demonstrating the game's commitment to going green, zero-carbon methanol derived from recycled waste carbon fueled the cauldron. Physical fireworks were replaced with digital ones. And after the opening ceremony ended, people flocked to the Big Lotus to enjoy the festive mood.
Back during the 2008 Beijing Olympics, I couldn't go there because I was too little. And now that I've grown up, I brought my father and brother this time to enjoy the games atmosphere.
The digital torchbearer surprised me because I'm in the fields of robots and artificial intelligence. This made me dream of integrating my two majors, robotics and media, to do something in the future.
The Hangzhou Asian Games will run until October 8th with more than 12,000 athletes competing in 40 sports. 송유진, Arirang News, Hangzhou.
Now, looking to the action on Sunday, where Kim Sun-woo logged South Korea's first medal in the competition with a silver in the women's modern pentathlon. The 27-year-old achieved her spot on the podium with a total of 1,386 points, 20 points behind China's Zhang Mingyu and 12 ahead of Bian Yufei, also from China. Now, the silver is Kim's third consecutive Asiad medal after a previous team gold in 2014 and an individual bronze in 2018. The discipline is a combination of 5 events: show jumping, fencing, swimming, running and pistol shooting. Now, South Korean athletes in the men's pentathlon later scooped up 2 golds, with Jong Eun-tae picking up the winners' medals in the individual as well as team events. Now, South Korea on Sunday maintained dominance in its home sport of Taekwondo, securing 2 gold medals in the men's and women's individual poomsae. Kang Wang-jin picked up the first gold after he beat Ma Yun-jong of Chinese Taipei. Kang's win was shortly followed by another triumph, this time from Cha Ye-in, who beat Yuiko Niwa of Japan to claim the women's individual title. From the preliminary round to the quarter-finals, athletes performed recognized poomsae routines. From the semi-finals onward, they performed a recognized routine for the first program, followed by a freestyle routine. Taekwondo poomsae is a systematic sequence of Taekwondo techniques linked together to form a pattern of moves that is scored by a panel of judges. Now, turning over to fencing, South Korea's very own Choi In-jeong secured a gold in the women's epee category in an all-Korean final. Coming up against compatriot and fencing world champion Song Se-ra, Choi beat her opponent 9-8. The win is the 33-year-old's first Asian Games gold. She previously won 2 bronze in individual epee in 2014 and 2018 and 2 silvers in team categories at the Olympics. Sunday's win marks South Korea's first gold in fencing and has brought the country's gold medal tally to its current of 5. And finally, we turn to swimming, where South Korean swimming star Hwang Sun-woo clinched bronze on Sunday in the men's 100-meter freestyle in his Asiad debut. The 20-year-old came in third, clocking a time of 48.04 seconds. It's far from his local South Korean record of 47.56 seconds, which was set during the 2021 Tokyo Olympics. First place was taken by China's Pan Zhangle, who broke his own Asian record at 46.97 seconds. Hwang voiced disappointment at his result, but has promised to make up for it in his upcoming events. He is due to enter the men's 4x200-meter freestyle on Monday, followed by the 200-meter freestyle on Wednesday. We now take a look at the medal standings and the upcoming schedule.
Good morning. Cloudy skies with wet clouds to start off the Chuseok holiday week, and wet clouds are dropping light sprinkles to central regions and Jeollabuk-do province this morning. Rain will take a break during the day, then return tonight to central regions, spreading nationwide tomorrow. In central areas, we'll see 5 to 30 millimeters of showers. Southern parts of the country could see up to 20 millimeters into Tuesday. Now, temperatures stay above norms today, but there will be a huge drop in readings along with showers tomorrow. This morning, we are starting off the day in the mid-teens, then figures will hike quickly to the mid-20s with cloudy skies all day nationwide. Expect a mix of rain and cloud through the first half of the week, but bright skies return just in time for the Chuseok holiday. We won't have much problem checking out the stunning shiny full moon. Then October starts on a much chillier note. Well, that's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That is all for today. Thanks for watching.